From the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news.
Inside my dream, I could faintly see a man who looks so much like me. Called to him, he spared me no glance. He did not give me half a chance.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to the 25th season and this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, setting poetry to music. Joining us to talk more about it are Lauren Medici, Director of Engagement Programs at Opera Omaha, Pat McAvoy, a core teaching artist with Nebraska Writers Collective, and Phoenix Nels, a student poet from Millard South High School. Thank you all so much for being here and welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. You bet. Lauren, I want to start with you. Let's set the stage a little bit. Tell us about Opera Omaha.
So Opera Omaha is a professional opera company. We have been here in Omaha and serving Nebraska for over 60 years. And in addition to what you might think of as traditional opera performances that we do at the Orpheum Theater, we have a really robust education and community engagement programming and do about another 100 to 150 events and programs throughout the community all through the year.
Wow. And Pat, Nebraska Writers Collective. What's important for us to know about that organization?
The Nebraska Writers Collective is an organization that's made up of poets and novelists and singer-songwriters and hip-hop artists and journalists and anyone who just enjoys writing in whatever form they want to write in, whatever means they use to express themselves. So we're a group that goes into the community, and we try to engage the community for self-improvement, for empowerment, to give people a voice when they don't necessarily know how to find their own. So we run workshops in the Nebraska prison system, in Douglas County Youth Corrections, Project Everlast, Project Harmony. We do stuff in 50 some odd middle schools and high schools across the state. We do projects all over the place, and then obviously the one we do with Opera Omaha, the one that we're going to talk about today.
And we're going to talk about it actually right now.
Fantastic,
so several years ago, this is making more sense now, the two organizations came together and said, we're going to empower students and build community through something called the Poetry and Music Project. Lauren, take it away. What is that?
Yeah, so we started this project. We're in our 5th year now. This came out of when Opera Omaha commissioned the new opera Proving Up by Missy Mazzoli and Royce Favrick. We had a really great opportunity to really talk about the writing and writing music and setting words to music. And so we partnered with Nebraska Writers Collective to create the Poetry and Music Project. And it was so successful in that first year with that one project that we have now brought it back annually and are now in our 5th year of doing this project together with Nebraska Writers Collective, and it's just deepened and grown every year.
How cool is that? Now, Pat, you recently selected 11 students, and we're going to be talking about them and actually meeting one. Before we do that, though, I want to give our viewers an idea of what's involved with this whole process, from submission to selection and so forth, and themes. Right?
Yeah, and so this project generally starts in August and obviously culminates in May. In August, we have conversations with all the stakeholders. So, Lauren, obviously, with Opera Omaha, us at the Nebraska Writers Collective, the composers that are going to be the ones that are actively choosing the poems for the year. And then this year, we got to work with a visual artist that was excellent. He's doing the Nebraska Flatwater Project, and we tried to bring in as many sort of stakeholders, as many people as we could, to, to formulate a more robust vision of Nebraska to represent, right? Like we didn't, poetry and opera are not things that people always see that they go together so naturally. Visual artists, like we try to get as many different kind of artists into a room and have those conversations and see how we can tie those things together. So we had those conversations, and since Nebraska Flatwater Project is so very, very driven by the landscape of Nebraska and the people of Nebraska, I thought it would be interesting to talk about sort of nature, right? And so that was, after all the conversations, I was just taking notes the whole time, just taking notes. I wasn't doing much talking. I was just listening to other artists and their inspiration and hearing what they would like to see come out of this. And it was all about nature, but nature's big, right? Nature's massive, and it's very difficult to just be like, here, students, write a poem about nature, and we may turn it into a operatic piece. And so we broke it down into very specific parts about nature that are a little bit more digestible and a little bit easier to write poetry prompts to. And so we gave them, for example, we gave them solace in nature, finding that peace in nature. And the prompt was all about being alone doesn't always mean you're lonely, right? Like there's these things that you can connect to, and we try to make them as sort of as diverse as possible. One of Adam from Flatwater Project, one of his big focuses was neurodiversity in his art, and so I made sure that every prompt sort of had a alternate way to think about these things, or a different way. Like if you haven't been in nature, if you haven't gone out and hiked in a forest every weekend, like what does nature mean in your community? What does nature mean, on 42nd in Dodge as opposed to 232nd in Dodge or something like that. I mean, these things, what you see in your community, those are all things that we had to consider because we want this project to be, as diverse as possible, as big as possible, as reaches as many students as possible. And so you have to really, when you're setting the prompts back in August, September, before we start doing the things, we're really trying to get, to encapsulate as many people as we can. So once we get those out, they get disseminated to the different schools, to all the schools that are interested, and then we start running writing workshops where we'll go in and we'll actually teach them how to add musicality to their poetry, right? So that they can, we teach them sort of these subtle tricks to add, okay, now we can add alliteration or assonance or consonants or all these different little things that make the songs that you really love the songs you really love. The things that make lyrics memorable are these things that writers do that sometimes they don't even know that they're doing. And so we teach them that. We show them examples of Olivia Rodrigo is so popular with the high schools, middle schools. So I broke down a piece of her writing and said, this is exactly what she's doing, and this is exactly why this is such a fun song to sing along to, because of the repetition of sound and these things. And then the composers will come in and help us, and they'll be like, in opera, this is what this does, or like the sound that a B makes is a different sound than the S makes, and here's how we discuss that in opera. And so we give it to them on multiple different levels, but we also give it to them in a way that's so very much relatable to them, and so that they can hear that, they can see that, and then they can start writing whatever it is they want, that they want to talk about based on the themes and the 5 prompts. And after after they've done their writing, we give them a chance to we'll offer feedback if they like, and then they submit, and it's all up to the 2 composers. It's and what moves them and what drives them to want to work with this student or this poem.
I love that you generate all that interest, and then at the same turn I'm thinking, who's on the receiving end of all of those submissions, right? So awesome that you were able to reach that many students in the way that you were able to reach them. But I have to ask, Pat, you've got to narrow it down to 11. How does that happen?
That's mostly, like I said, that's mostly the job of the composers. They're the ones that ultimately are, if you give me a writing prompt and you tell me to write about something I have no idea about, it's going to be tough for me to really formulate something that, even as a writer, I can give you something. If you're like, Pat, I want a birthday card for a 5-year-old, okay, well, I'll write you something, but like that's not a type of writing I've done in a long time, right? So I think that the composers, we give them the leeway to pick who they want to work with, because I think it's important that they're driven, that they're moved by a piece of writing, and sometimes it's a line, sometimes it's a paragraph, sometimes it's the whole thing, sometimes they find a bit of themselves in the poem, sometimes they just want to explore more about the depth of the poem. Whatever it is, like they pick, we let them choose because they're the ones ultimately that are going to set this thing to music. And that collaboration, once I teach the poet all that I can, then it's up to them and the composer to come together to make that that art. And that's what we want it to be about is the artists, the poets that we let submit, and the composers, the artists that are going to set this. In the past we've had students that were like, no, you're going the wrong way with this. We've had students correct composers in what they were interpreting in their poems, and that's the kind of ownership we want to see. That's the kind of the advocacy, like you're fighting for your poem and you know exactly what you meant, and you're not going to let someone twist it, and that's exactly what we want to see. So it's been an excellent program.
What a journey. All right, so we're going to put up names of the artists you mentioned in just a minute, but first, the stars of our show, right? We're going to put the 11 student names, poetry, or their titles to their poems, as well as the schools they're representing. So as we put that up, Pat or Lauren, what are you thinking? What's important for us to know here?
What's really exciting is all of these poets, they really range in age from everything from third graders to seniors in high school. And so also their poems really range from, there's a poem in here that's about a jellyfish. And then there's, beautiful poems about nature that are really deep and heartfelt. And I think what's really beautiful about having our composers choose what they're inspired by is there's a broad range in these poems that also shows up that there's a broad range in the songs that you'll hear. And so there you can really see all of the kind of possibilities of what it can sound like to set poetry to music and some of those kind of different musical elements and styles that will show up in the project.
Very cool. Let's take a look at the artists now. You had referenced them earlier, but let's look at these people. So either one of you, go ahead.
Yeah, so Alexis Lamb and Matt Brown are our composers for the project this year. They're both professional composers and are working all over the United States. Jared, Fernando, and Jamie are Holland Community Opera Fellows, so they're with us full-time at Opera Omaha. This is just one of the community-engaged projects that they're doing with us. Jared and Jamie are singers. They'll be singing all of the pieces. Fernando is a writer and a poet, and actually also works with Nebraska Writers Collective, but now he works with us full-time. And he'll be hosting the concert along with Matt Mason, our Nebraska State poet, and also with Nebraska Writers Collective. And then Sean Kelly is our fabulous head of music at Opera Omaha, and he will be playing piano for the whole thing. And then also, all of these people are really instrumental in the workshop process and really in thinking about what does it look like when this is in process, when the creative process is happening, when that collaboration needs to happen, when something doesn't feel quite right and we need to make adjustments. That's an important part of this project too.
Well, and of course, the most important part is our student poets. And we
Absolutely.
do happen to have one here today, Phoenix Nels, who is from Millard South High School. I have to ask, because this is a pretty big moment for you, where were you when you found out that you had been selected?
I was in my AP language class where my teacher who had given me the information for the opportunity was right in front of the class, and I had opened my laptop and I very visibly had a shocked expression in my face. She was, "Are you okay? Is everything all right?" And I'm like, "My poem just got selected," and I was over the moon. I was absolutely blown away that I would even be considered for such an incredible opportunity.
Wow. Okay, I have to ask too, when did you become interested in writing?
Well, we all do the poetry unit when we were in elementary school, just writing quick little haikus or anything in that regard. But I didn't start writing poetry until about my freshman year of high school is when I started recognizing that I could turn emotions and experiences that I had had into words to convey them in a way that could make them palatable not only to me, but to perhaps an audience. And so I ended up just composing on my own free time, and we have such an excellent English program at Millard South High School. And my sophomore English teacher, Holly Hartel, sort of just found that I had been writing poems in my spare time and encouraged me to publish them in our internal poem publishing newspaper, Lit Fly, and then transferred that on to Amber Wormington, my current English teacher, and it went from there.
Wow. Now, when you are sitting down, now how do you do this? Do you write it out? Do you type it out? I mean, when you have a poem in mind, how is it that you are putting all of that together?
I normally end up finding a sentence or a quick phrase that sticks in my mind, and I end up finding that as the node of the piece. And I'll end up just jotting it down, whether that be on my phone or my math notebook, and then I'll take it later and I'll sit down and I'll go, what am I feeling here? What is the story here that I'm trying to tell? And it goes from there. I really don't have any formal process. It spills out of me.
Now, you mentioned that you had been inspired by maybe some things that had happened to you. You don't have a real big past. You're a junior in high school, but you do have a past nonetheless. Where do you draw your inspiration? What is that for you, Phoenix?
I draw my inspiration from the stories that I see in my life, either the ones I am a part of or the ones that I see in conventional stories or just my life in general. I love being able to draw from the experiences that we all have and turn them into specific, just avenues for I feel like I've lost the plot a little bit, but what I end up doing for poems is I see a scene. I see a scene or a feeling or something I want to articulate, and I try to create it into a piece, whether that be lyrically or emotionally. And that's where I start from, and that's where I draw all of my emotion from.
So let's start maybe here with a little background. You wrote a poem called Sea.
Yes.
Okay. Take us back to that time when you thought, this is going to be good. I'm going to sit down and put this together. How does that start for you?
Quarantine was a very difficult time for a lot of us. It was a very emotionally distant time, but it was also one where a lot of extra work had been put on a lot of our shoulders, specifically within the arts. And I'm our drama president, so I was feeling it absolutely as well. We couldn't express ourselves in the way that we used to. And so I remember sitting, it was pretty much alone one night and thinking about something that my mom had said. She's a teacher at Millard South, and it was also an alienating time for educators. And she said, when all of this is done, we're gonna live by the sea. And that struck with me. And I ended up creating the poem based on the experiences that we had had together and the back and forth about, when all of this is over, we'll live by the sea.
Wow, would you mind reciting this poem for us?
When all of this is over, we'll live by the sea. You told me that once, eyes sagging and tired, looking for a way out, desperate and adrift. A quiet resolution as winter took the breath from your lungs. It was never a fiction, but a simple truth you held in your bones, and ever since I was young, as you told me, as I knew, we'd live by the sea. I would toddle on warm beaches wrapped in the embrace of the water, and you would smile in the sunlight. I would be able to fall in love with the waves as they washed the wrinkles from your face. This place has made misers of us both because you are not made for the cold, just as I am not made for the land. We are mariners without a vessel, with words lining our salt-laced lips. When all of this is over, we'll live by the sea.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, Pat, give it to us from your perspective. That was amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, so when I write these prompts, I have no idea who's going to, whose hands they're going to be put into. I just hope that whoever's hands they do find themselves in can do something with them as beautiful as that, and we try to, again, we try to broaden as many, we want to see as many schools involved, we want to see as many students involved, as many, we want to make this thing as big and awesome and diverse as possible, but the thing that, this is the payoff, right? You start the work in August so that you can hear a minute-long poem or read it in the book, and then you get to see it on stage. And it's you realize that I wasn't doing anything that impressive when I was her age, right? I wasn't writing that well, and I teach it for a living now, but I wasn't doing what she was doing at that age, and that's what makes you want to keep doing it and keep running the program, because it's so impressive.
So we take this now to the next level. We're going to put music to this. Phoenix, you have this beautiful piece, right? Everybody loves, inspired, just awesome. And now we've got to put this thing to music, right? So talk to us about what it was like to work with a composer and take that.
It was marvelous. So what we do in the program is I put the words down, the poem selected, and then I get to meet with the composer once with our performer and our pianist, and I get to hear it. I get to give my own thoughts, see if there's anything that needs tweaking, and then we go from there. But the first time I heard the composition, it was stellar. I felt the crests and the troughs of the waves, but I think most importantly, I found my mom in the music, which was, I think, the most important part of this poem.
Okay, that is beautiful. All right, so I have to ask, when we were talking earlier about, that composer getting your piece, was there anything about what had been done that you thought, ooh, if we could just do that a little differently, I think it would be a little more reflective of your mom, right? Yeah?
I'm a very musical person, so while I may not have a melody in mind when I'm crafting a piece, I may have a meter going. And there's one segment where I felt that the music should swell a little bit more than it was, and that was really my only little tweak that I had. And Alexis was absolutely game to just whatever I needed. And we made that quick little tweak, and there was just that little difference made it feel like the piece just came alive a little bit more.
Okay, so I have to ask now, you've been through this process, written, worked with the composer, and now you're going to have people coming to see this, right? How are you feeling about that? I know it seems kind of like a trite question, but holy cow, this has been quite a journey, right?
I'm very deeply excited. It's my poetry, my poem that I take time on. It's a very solitary way of expressing myself. And so it's something that my friends and my family don't really get to see. So being able to share this piece of me, this part of my personality that isn't as public is a little bit scary, but a little bit exciting as well.
Okay, next, what is next? You're a junior. So you think you're gonna continue writing, and are you gonna take that and do maybe what Pat is doing and kind of apply that to your professional life? What are your thoughts in terms of what's next for Phoenix Now?
Of course, I want to continue writing poetry, but what I want to go into is archival work. The ability to see documents and pictures and be able to create a story and a narrative of here's what happened in the past and here's how it relates to you is very strong and something that I really could see myself doing for the rest of my life.
How did this particular experience play into what you just said?
I'm a natural storyteller. You have that with theater, you have that with poetry, and being able to see that people from all walks of life, opera, poetry, can turn just a piece of mine into something so stupendous. It was a wonderful experience and something that I'm definitely going to keep with me the rest of my life.
All right, so what would you say to young viewers watching this program right now who are thinking, I've always wanted to do what she's doing? What would you tell them?
Writing is not conventional. If you write your favorite piece at 3 a.m. in your bed, that's fine. Not everyone is up at a writing desk with a quill. Poetry is what you make of it. It can be modern, it can be weird, it can be you. That's what's most important, just putting it out there and seeing what you can create.
Very cool. Well, we're all going to see what 11 students created alongside these composers that we've been talking about. Lauren, tell us about this upcoming performance.
Yes, you can see Phoenix's piece and the other 10 pieces performed at the premiere of our Poetry and Music Project concert at the Benson Theater on Saturday, May 14th. We are so excited to have that concert. If you can't make it to Benson on that Saturday, it will also be live streamed, so you can register on our website to get the link to see it live streamed. It will also be recorded, and we'll release some recorded versions of the music later on as well. So that will live on our website, and you can go back and play over and over again your favorite piece from the Poetry and Music Project concert. And then we're having a special performance the following day on the 15th at Gallery 1516, where a few of the pieces that are really specifically tied to the Nebraska Flatwater installation there will be performed, as well as getting to experience that installation in that gallery space. So that's a kind of second opportunity to experience some of the music from this project.
And Pat, I can't even imagine what this is going to be like to have people actually coming in to the venue. to experience this, right?
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, that, you know, me sitting in my apartment and still like sort of in that post-pandemic and trying to figure out how to tie all of these other artists' ideas into one, and those little things, the little things that I jot down, become these big things, and that's exactly. And then you get to read the poems. You're like, God, this is so excellent. And now I'm going to get to see the music that was, you know, like the whole project is just so excellent for us. Like, and to see it start so small and grow and grow and grow and grow into this awesome visage of self-expression is so excellent.
Wow, Lauren, we have about 30 seconds remaining. I'm going to give you the final word. What do you think?
I just would say that if this is the thing that you're interested in and inspires you, we're just so lucky that we do this. We've made this an annual project. And so, you know, keep an eye out in September and October, and we'll have new themes and new prompts. And, you know, we just encourage students to submit any pieces of writing and poetry that relate to those themes and prompts. Because we never know what inspires a composer. It's not judged, it's just what inspires them to create music.
Okay, so Lauren Pat Phoenix talking to us today about the Poetry and Music Project. Folks wanting more information can go to either of these websites, anywriters.org, operaomaha.org, and there is the phone number for Opera Omaha. Thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck to you, Phoenix. We'll have to follow up with you years down the road. Thank you all so much for being here. To our students who are working so hard behind the scenes, and of course, to all of you for watching. As we close a look at Midtown Crossing in Omaha as seen through the lens of Dee Warren, a junior at UNO. We will see you next week.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information and program archives can be found at nebraskapublicmedia.org/considerthis. If you'd like to share your comments about this program, call UNO Television at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours, or send an email to cwyatt@unomaha.edu.